What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Hopefully, everybody is doing well today. Now, look, this is not the normal setup, as you guys know. I alluded to this on our last episode. I talked about how I was going to be going on vacation. I was going to be going home to visit my family for the holidays. So today, you kind of get the janky, the alternate setup. That's what you get today. Hopefully, everything is good. It is still going to be the same type of content. Hopefully, good content to help you guys win your Week 16 fantasy football games, because that is what we are here for, man. The fantasy football playoffs, they have already started. Last week was, hey, there was a lot going on. I'm not going to lie. So hopefully everything is good with you guys. This is the second episode of Ring Chasers. We are going to be going through matchups this week that I like, waiver wire pickups that can help you win in Week 16. And then we're going to be finishing this off with a Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, you guys have anything that you want me to answer here in today's episode, drop it in the chat. That third section of our video, the last part of the video, we are going to be answering all of those questions. I will be saving them for the end. So make sure you drop them in the chat. It is first come, first serve. But without wasting any more time, as I said, let's hop into some waiver wire pickups here in Week 16 that are going to help you win your fantasy football championships. So the first player that I like off of the waiver wire is going to be a league-winning type of pick. It's going to be Jerome Ford for the Cleveland Browns. Now, look, there is a little bit of a thing with Jerome Ford at the moment where it's probably going to be Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is most likely going to be the quarterback under center this week. If that is the case, it does limit the upside of Jerome Ford, because we like the PPR ability of Jerome Ford. We like the Jameis Winston upside of Jerome Ford, but that is not going to be here in this episode. So I do think this is going to be a little bit less enticing than it was just a couple of days ago when we felt like Jameis Winston was going to be under center. Jerome Ford, though, nonetheless, Nick Chubb, unfortunately, fractured the foot, broke the foot. It's a fracture. It's not a break. Still, same thing. He's not going to be playing football the rest of the year. It's going to be Jerome Ford the rest of the way. So he has the potential to be picked up off the waiver wire. You see the roster ship percentage, 43% right now for Jerome Ford. Last week went 7 carries for 84 yards and a touchdown, had the 2 receptions as well. I think this is a guy who can help you win right away. So appreciate Jay Lynn in the chat. Appreciate you being here. Nate, I appreciate you being here. I see the question. I'm going to answer those questions, the start sit questions at the very end. Jalen also says, made it to the semis in all 5 dynasty leagues. And that's what you love to see, man. That is why we are here. So that is the first waiver wire pickup for me today. Anthony, appreciate you being in here, my guy. Let's go on to our second guy, and that's going to be Kendre Miller for me. Kendre Miller is a guy that I want to pick up off the waiver wire. We don't know right now whether or not Alvin Kamara is going to be available in this upcoming game for the Saints. But Kendre Miller filled in last week. He had some carries, 9 carries for 46 rushing yards. He didn't really get used in the receiving game. We know that's Alvin Kamara's bread and butter. But Kendre Miller, if Alvin Kamara were to miss time this week, Kendre Miller has a great matchup against the Green Bay Packers, 21.2 fantasy points allowed per game by that group. So Kendre could have some plug-in and play ability, at least as a flex option, maybe even a running back 2 option. Someday I'm definitely willing to try and get onto my waiver wire or get off of my waiver wire and onto my team. Now, going on to another player at a different position, Brenton Strange. He is a guy that I'm definitely trying to get on my waiver wire as well. We saw last week no Evan Engram in the lineup for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Brenton Strange, 11 receptions on 12 targets for 73 yards, turned into a PPR monster for you in that last week's matchup with Mac Jones under center. Now, I don't think that 12 targets is necessarily going to be the norm, but if you're looking for tight end help, we know that Zach Ertz has a concussion. Maybe he's not going to play this week. There's some other guys that have some injuries as well. I think potentially Brenton Strange is a guy you can pick up and play off the waiver wire this week, and he's somebody that I'd be targeting as well. Now, going to my final, actually, let me just touch on Brenton Strange's matchup too, because Brenton Strange's matchup is pretty damn good. When you look at his matchup this week, he gets the Las Vegas Raiders. They're allowing 12.9 fantasy points per game to that group. That is 31st in the NFL, so second to last. Just wanted to throw that out there as well. So he does have streamability. The last guy I want to talk about, Craig Reynolds. Craig Reynolds is a running back for the Detroit Lions. And yes, unfortunately, David Montgomery sounds like he's going to be out for the rest of the season. If he is out for the rest of the season, Craig Reynolds is most likely going to be the next man up. There could be a chance of Sione Vaki in here as well, but I think Craig Reynolds is going to be the next guy up behind Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Jahmyr Gibbs has instantly turned into a total league winner, but Craig Reynolds should get some work. So if you're in a pinch You have David Montgomery, you have Nick Chubb, you have one of these guys who's gotten hurt this last week because there was like 15 plus injuries last week. I think Craig Reynolds can be plugged in and played in a pinch if you really need him. Jake says, love the setup. Appreciate you, Jake. Like we said, we're gonna make it happen. You know, rain, snow, wind, fire, don't matter. If I'm on the East Coast, the West Coast, we still got this coming at you. So I appreciate you being here. See all these questions in the chat, folks. I'm going to be answering these here in just a second. Let me get through the rest of these few little points that I want to make here about week 16. With that said, though, those are my waiver wire pickups. I think Jerome Ford, Kendre Miller, Brenton Strange, and Craig Reynolds should all be prioritized on the waiver wire this week. Also, other names to look for: Alexander Madison with Sincere McCormick potentially being done for the rest of the season. I think Alexander Madison's a guy that you'd be looking for, maybe a Tajay Spears, something like that as well. So those are all guys I'm going to be looking for this week. If you are looking for potential matchups, I got you covered on that one as well. So let's move on to the matchups. We'll talk about some of the best matchups and some of the worst matchups according to fantasy points above and below expectation here in week 16. So when you're looking at these quarterbacks, the quarterback position here for fantasy points above the expectation, here in week 16, these are the top 8 matchups. Obviously, green means good. Red means bad. So you have the top 8 and the bottom 8. When I'm looking at these matchups, obviously there's going to be the generic statement of start your studs. So I obviously want to get those guys that are studs. I'm not going to let the matchup defer me from playing them. Guys that is going to be applicable to, I think, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, and then probably Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels. Those are the guys that I would start as potentially start your studs. Don't worry about the matchups. I think maybe even CJ Stroud. He's been so mediocre at times this year. Those guys all kind of apply to it, but I want to focus on a couple matchups specifically. One guy, Cooper Rush. This week, they get the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're ranked 31st, giving up 3.9 fantasy points above the expectation. Last week, Cooper Rush had a really good week. I think if you're in a pinch, maybe Kirk Cousins ends up getting benched, and you had Kirk Cousins in a super flex, and you need a guy. Cooper Rush, I think, is a guy who I would almost rather start than Kirk Cousins this week. He's a guy that I'm looking at as a streaming option. Guys like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the matchup is good. I don't really love the play of Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I'm still probably avoiding him. That goes the same for the Tim Boyles and the Aiden O'Connells and those guys as well, even though the matchups are good. But I think some other guys like Kyler Murray, we mentioned the matchup at Carolina. That is a smash play for Kyler Murray. He hasn't necessarily been a hit most of these weeks, but I think this matchup it profiles as a good one. Same for Baker Mayfield and Russell Wilson. All of these guys, I think you should be finding ways to get those in your lineup. And I'd be starting like Russell Wilson over a Tua. I'd be starting a Russell Wilson potentially over a guy like Jared Goff this week. I know Jared is coming off of a huge, massive week, and that sounds scary, but a Baker Mayfield maybe over a Jared Goff doesn't scare me. A Kyler Murray over Jared Goff doesn't scare me. That's something that I'd be looking at. So that's going to take us to the bad matchups. Those bad matchups are one that I need to kind of stay away from. When we're looking at that, it's going to be guys like Derek Carr. There's rumors that he may be back in the lineup this week. If he's back in the lineup, I do not want to play him. It's a bad matchup. Shouldn't be playing him anyways. Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix. Obviously, Kirk Cousins hasn't been playing great. If Michael Penix does end up being the starter this week, this isn't the best matchup for me to throw him in and get him as my starter. I'm probably not going to be playing him this year. Probably going to be waiting till next year with Michael Penix. Not going to risk that there in the semifinals. Tua, I hate the matchup for Tua. He dudded us last week. I'm probably not really going to be trying to play him if I have some of these other options like Baker, like Russell Wilson, and probably be doing that. So Lamar Jackson, obviously we talked about that. Jared Goff, we talked about that. Brock Purdy, this is another matchup too that you're probably going to stay away from. And then Jaden Daniels, matchup proof. You're going to be playing him all the way. Caleb in the chat says, nah, the tree needs to be in every video. Hey, maybe it does. Maybe it does. I don't know, man. So we'll see what happens. Anthony, not seeing Darnold. Yeah, we're not seeing Darnold because his matchup is middle of the pack. It's not one of the top 8. It's not one of the bottom 8. So that is something we're definitely going to be looking at. Let's move on to the next position, though. I'm going to go on to this next position. It's going to be the running back position. So we'll go over there. We'll talk about some good matchups, some potential bad matchups. Hey, how does James Conner having the best matchup on the slate this week sound after giving you that week that he gave you last week? 7.9 fantasy points above the expectation being allowed by Carolina. James Conner gets that this week. Trey Benson banged up. I think James Conner is a smash RB1 play this week, potentially in your lineups as well. We talked about Alexander Madison maybe being on the waiver wire for you if you need somebody to stream. With no Sincere McCormick, the matchup's going to be good as well for Jacksonville. Might just be a volume play, a low upside type of volume play for you. Jacobs and James Cook, you're not thinking about it. You're throwing those guys into your lineup. Same with Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Craig Reynolds, the matchup is good for him too. If you need to take a risk, you pick him up off the waiver wire. It's good for him. I would probably be going Bijan and Etienne in my lineup. I don't know how I feel about Bigsby. Maybe probably going to be going for maybe both of them, one of them in the flex. I think you're okay with either of those guys for the most part, just based off the matchup. Monkey says, can I really bench Goff for Rush? I think I think you probably should still go with Jared Goff just with the offense, but it's closer than I think a lot of people think this week. Let's talk about some of the bad matchups. Rico Dowdle doesn't have a great matchup. He hasn't really had a lot of upside over the last couple of weeks. He's getting a ton of volume, but he's not getting into the end zone, and that's kind of capping his overall upside. I think he's still a solid play, a volume play, somebody I'm still going for if I can. The matchup's not too bad. I'm probably still going to throw Rico in there. But when you look at some of these other matchups, there's guys like Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin. I'm not playing these guys at all this week. I'm really trying to avoid them. Tyrone Tracy, Devin Singletary, really don't want to play those guys either with this matchup. I think Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, these are guys that I don't really want to play with this matchup either. Charbonnet, if he's alone in the backfield again, this is a bad matchup for him against Minnesota. Brian Robinson, a tough matchup, and Joe Mixon. Doesn't matter with Joe Mixon. He's a superstar, a stud. We're going to be playing him anyways, but these are bad matchups for these guys. Not saying that you can't play them, but I think we should temper the expectations when they do get thrown into the lineup. Johnny says, don't bench Goff. Now, Johnny Detroit, he does have the Detroit Lions logo, so Monkey, take that into consideration. He says, don't bench Goff, and Monkey says, I really want to, so we'll see. What else do we got? Jalen says, I have CJ Nico stack in multiple dynasties. Don't really have any other options to replace CJ. I have Reed on my bench, but not over CJ, right? I have Reed on my bench, but not over CJ, right? Yeah, probably not. Not in those super flex leagues. You're still going to be playing them. Johnny says Detroit struggles against mobile QBs. Goff should have close to 300 yards. So there you go with that one. Take that into consideration as well. No Monty also maybe means a little bit more passing. So I'm probably going to be leaning that way. Let's talk about the wide receiver position. The wide receiver position has some decent matchups as well this week. We're going to be talking about JSN and DK Metcalf as the best matchups of the week against Minnesota. Those guys are must plays. Jacoby Myers, you're playing him this week. Love the matchup against Jacksonville. Malik Neighbors, coming off of a huge game last week. You're probably still going to be playing him this week against Atlanta. You're not really questioning that in the first place. I don't know why I said you're probably playing him. You are playing him this week. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, throw him in the lineup. George Pickens is a guy I want to talk about because he may not play this week. It sounds like he's tracking or trying to play for this week. If he gets into the lineup, I love the matchup. I know there's going to be a little bit of worries because he didn't play the last 2 weeks because of the injuries. If he's healthy and he's in the lineup, I'm plugging him into my fantasy football lineups because the matchup tells me to. Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, you're playing those guys. Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman, these guys are interesting to me because we talked about Dorian Thompson-Robinson being the quarterback. If Dorian Thompson-Robinson is the quarterback in this game, I do think it limits the upside of these guys. Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman are both guys who have benefited from having Jameis Winston in the lineup. If you take Jameis out of that lineup, even though it's a good matchup on paper against Cincinnati, I'm a little bit worried because Dorian Thompson-Robinson is not a good NFL quarterback. He's not good for fantasy football points. There's a reason why he's the third string guy. And I just think if he is the starting quarterback, I'm probably getting away from most, if not all, Browns options this week, if I can afford to, if you have the luxury to. CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, you're playing those guys as well. There's really not too much here that was shocking, I feel, out of the matchups, not anything we can super exploit. What else we got here in the questions? The Goff St. Brown stack is locked in. Time for a dynasty chip. You love to see that. And then Monkey says, I have Amon-Ra St. Brown, so yeah, I'll go with the stack. And then Jalen, I got the questions saved. We'll answer that as part of the Q&A at the end. So going to the wide receivers that you probably should be a little bit wary of. You got the Atlanta Falcons, Drake Leonard and Darnell Mooney against the New York Giants. Right now, they're allowing negative 3.2 fantasy points below the expectation. It's a little bit tougher. You got Adam Thielen and Jalen Coker. That is a little bit of a tougher matchup as well. Jalen Coker obviously had the big game last week with the big play. I don't know if that's necessarily anything we can bank on. Adam Thielen didn't have the biggest game either. He's still a PPR guy, so I still think he has a safe floor, but I don't know what his ceiling is going to be in a game like this with a tough matchup. Brian Thomas Jr., massive game as well. You're still going to play Brian Thomas Jr., but the matchup tells us that it's going to be a little bit tougher than last week. Amon-Ra and Jamison Williams have a tougher matchup. MVS, bad matchup. You probably weren't thinking of playing him anyways. If you were playing him in your fantasy football playoffs, you probably were not in a good spot in the first place. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, tough matchup for them. I'm probably going to be steering clear of both of those guys if I can afford to. And then Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin, Jalen Waddle. We'll see if Jalen Waddle plays. He's still banged up. But Tyreek Hill and Terry McLaurin, it doesn't matter that the matchup is bad. You're going to throw them in your lineup anyways, but temper those expectations. Let's go to the last position, and then we'll get into the Q&A because I want to get to your guys' questions. I want to answer your guys' questions here today. At the tight end position, when you're looking at fantasy points above the expectation, this is the list of the good matchups. Chig Okonkwo, David Njoku, Trey McBride, Brenton Strange, Dalton Schultz, Jake Ferguson, Brock Bowers, and Juwan Johnson. Now, there's a lot of names here that you could potentially be streaming off the waiver wire. Chig, you probably still want to avoid, even though the matchup is so good, you probably want to avoid that. But guys like Brenton Strange, Dalton Schultz, Juwan Johnson, I think all of those guys could potentially be on your waiver wire that you can pick up and play this week. There might even be a chance for you who've been holding guys like guys like Jake Ferguson and guys like David Njoku on your bench over the last couple of weeks because of injuries or whatever it may be. You probably have the opportunity to play them this week. I know I said that with the Cleveland Browns, you don't really want to have anybody with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. David Njoku would be an exception to me. I think he's a little bit better than some of the wide receivers as a play this week specifically. Trey McBride, obviously we don't need to talk about it. Brock Bowers, we don't need to talk about it. Those guys are as elite as they come, and all of these matchups are going to be really good for you at the tight end position. Now, as the bad matchups, really the only one, maybe two that I want to talk about here are Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts gets the New York Giants, negative 2.5 fantasy points below the expectation. This is a much tougher matchup for Kyle Pitts. He hasn't been good this year. Kirk Cousins hasn't been good. The Atlanta Falcons haven't been good. It might be Michael Penix. We don't know. I think Kyle Pitts, this is a guy that, honestly, we talked about it last week. If you're considering Kyle Pitts or a guy like Brenton Strange, I think you're safe enough at this point to go Brenton Strange. If you're thinking Kyle Pitts or a guy like Juwan Johnson, I think there's consideration that you could go Juwan Johnson over Kyle Pitts this week. Kyle Pitts just simply hasn't been good, and he's not a guy that I can rely on in my fantasy football leagues. Another matchup that I think is tough, but I probably am still going to be playing him is Jonnu Smith. The caveat is if Jalen Waddle misses this game, Jonnu Smith, it doesn't matter that the matchup's bad. You have to throw him in the lineup. So he's the only other guy that I would be talking about. And then we should mention, too, Tyler Higbee might be back for the Los Angeles Rams this week. If Tyler Higbee is in the lineup, I'm not really looking to play him. It's his first game back from the ACL. Probably not playing him at all this week, but I did want to mention that he is going to be back in the lineup this week. So those are matchups to kind of look at, matchups to avoid this week, some waiver wires to pick or waiver wire players to pick up. But overall, that is the data that I wanted to present to you guys as we go into week 16. But you guys are here for a fantasy football Q&A to finish this off. So if you guys have questions, fantasy football questions for me, life questions, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter at this point, I guess. If it's a Q&A, you can ask me whatever you want. But it is time for the Q&A, so make sure you get those questions in the chat. All right, so I know I had some of these saved. Where are we at? Nate, my guy, he says Bigsby or Tracy, half PPR for running back 2, Stafford or Kyler's 6-point passing touchdown. So this week, Bigsby versus Tracy, I'm going to go with Tracy in the half PPR for the running back 2. For Kyler versus Stafford, I'm going Kyler in that 6-point passing touchdown. The match was better for Kyler this week. And Tracy, he has a mediocre matchup, but I'm still going to be playing him this week. Shadow, pick 2, 1 wide receiver and 1 flex. Marvin Harrison Jr., Thielen, Quentin Johnston, Rashad White, Travis Etienne. Thanks in advance. So for 1 wide receiver, I'm going to be going with Marvin Harrison Jr. The flex, I'm going to go with Adam Thielen. Those are going to be my 2 plays, Marvin Harrison and Adam Thielen this week. What do we got? RSG. Dynasty question. Would you drop Chris Rodriguez for Pierre Strong? Trying to figure out which one is the better stash. I think they're about equal stashes. I don't really love Pierre Strong. I think you could potentially pick him up, but both of these guys are kind of the same. third string backs that might have some potential down the stretch here this year. I think Pierre has probably more potential this remaining couple of games, but neither of these guys have long-term value, so I'm not really stashing either of them, but Pierre's probably the better stash if you're looking for one. Jay Lynn, he says Superflex, start 1 of 3. JT, DJ Moore, Caleb Williams. In the Superflex, I think in the Superflex this week, you probably still got to go with Caleb Williams. He didn't have the good game last week, but he had a couple of good games the last 2 weeks before that. I'm probably still going to throw him in the lineup. In a Superflex, it's hard for me to really take a QB out of that Superflex position. So it's going to be Caleb Williams for me here with this question. What else do we got here in the chat? Kevin, he says, sup, my guy, Darnold or Goff, also Broncos or Eagles this week. So I'm going to go with Darnold over Goff for fantasy this week. I'm also going to go with the Broncos defense over the Eagles defense this week. So those are going to be my 2 picks. Johnny says Foster Moreau is eating into Juwan Johnson's potential. I think he is a little bit as well. But Juwan Johnson, he's still tight end 1A if you want to go that route. He's still the guy that I would probably be looking at. Angel says, I listened to your advice and started Kyler over Goff last week. Thank you, boss. Lost by 4 points. Well, look, unfortunately, I'm sorry that you lost your game. Unfortunately, I can't, go 100% every single week. Definitely didn't project Jared Goff to go for 50-something points. So sorry that we didn't answer that one 100% correctly, but hopefully, you still made some better lineup decisions earlier in the year that got you there. And then hopefully next year you're back and we can help you win a championship next year. But again, sorry for getting it wrong, on that one for you. Anyways, Jay Lynn, thank you for the data, brother. Appreciate you, Jay Lynn. Gage, my guy, he says, how have your leagues gone? Also, Cup or Pacheco? Okay, so to answer the question first, the easy one, Cup versus Pacheco, I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp this week. When it comes to my leagues, I was in 6 lineup leagues this year. 2 of them were redrafts. 4 of them were dynasty leagues. One of the dynasty leagues, I came into the year rebuilding, so we kind of just chalked that year up for a rebuild anyways. So that really left us with 5 that we were playing to win. Both redrafts, we ended up missing the playoffs, actually. My home league, the one that we did a vlog about, we missed that one, but the BDG league, we got bounced by 4 points in the final week of the season. So we ended up losing because Chase Brown Monday Night Football touchdown. The dynasties, we had one team that was a 3 seed, ended up going into that playoffs there, and then the other 2 leagues we had bye weeks. So we were the 1st seed in one of them and the 2 seed in the other one. So we got bye weeks. The dynasty leagues are going really good actually right now. So trying to play for championships in pretty much all of those that we were playing in. But the redraft's not so good this year. I think at the beginning of the year I drafted too many Brandon Ayuk. I drafted too much Puka, which Puka missed too many games at the beginning of the year that it kind of did sink me a little bit with the Brandon Ayuk injury. And I also had Stephon Diggs on a lot of teams. So I really was getting torn by ACLs early in the year. Wasn't great in my redrafts, but my dynasties were able to go pretty good. Angel says, I still love you. I still love you too, Angel. I appreciate you, man. What do we got here? Darnold or Goff? Anthony, we're going to be going with Darnold this week. Kraft or Njoku if he plays. I would go Njoku if he plays over Tucker Kraft this week. The matchup is just much better, but that's a big if Njoku plays. Oscar says, do I run Cooper Rush or AR for week 16? Interesting. I think I lean Cooper Rush here. Cooper Rush has the better matchup. AR, he's been mediocre, kind of hit and miss so far. I think I would lean Cooper Rush, especially if it's a 6-point passing touchdown league. But even in your 4-point passing touchdown leagues, I think you could still lean Cooper Rush. Are we considering Brian Thomas Jr. over AJ Brown, JJ, or Nico? No, I am not doing that at this point. Brian Thomas Jr., he would be behind all of those guys for me. I love Brian Thomas. He's been a baller, but I wouldn't put him over those guys right now. Jalen says now 2 of 3. JT, Neighbors, and Moore. I'm going to go with JT and Neighbors. Those would be my 2 plays. Johnny says start Caleb. Detroit has an entire starting defense on IR. Man, STF you up with that. You are here asking for advice. There you go. I guess. Angels. We love Angel. Don't give Angel no gripe. It's whatever. Monkey says need 3 flexes of Devontae, Downs, Ramondre, Mooney, or ETN. What are we gonna do here? I definitely want to play Devontae. I think I'm gonna be playing Mooney. I think I'd go Ramondre. I'm gonna go Devontae, Mooney, Ramondre right now. Gage says, redraft's killer. I just have my home league with my high school buddies, but hell yeah, dubs in the chats all around. W's in the chat, boys. Yeah, you love to see it, man. Hopefully yours are going well as well. Next year we need to get the redrafts under wraps because right now we've just been doing well in the dynasties and the redrafts not so much this year. Jay Lynn says 2 QBs, Caleb, May, and Darnold. I'm going to go Caleb and Darnold. We're going to play those 2 guys this week. Anthony says, should I play 49ers defense or Jets defense? Can't really remember where I have these guys in my rankings right now. I'm going to pull these up just so I can check off the top of my head. I guess not off the top of my head. I'm actually referring to my rankings. So what am I talking about? 49ers and Jets. I don't have either of them very high, actually. The 49ers I have at 14. The Jets I have at 16. So I guess I'm going Niners, but I don't have either of these as great. I don't have either of these as great defensive plays. Jalen says we have the exact thoughts, so I feel good about it. I'm glad I can give you that confirmation bias there. I'm glad that's what that was, Jalen. Appreciate you. Angel says it wasn't that deep. It's all love, and that's facts. It's all love, Angel. Appreciate you being here. I like it, man. Hold me accountable, you know? Like I said, I'm not ever going to shoot 100%. Nobody in this industry, but by the way, nobody in this industry, no matter how much you like them or no matter how big of a platform they have, nobody in this industry shooting 100%. And you're right. Everybody has to have, somebody that they listen to, get the ideas, get the information from, and then they make the line of decisions themselves. But hold me accountable, man. If I give you some bad advice every once in a while, let me know I gave you some bad advice. Don't let me just brush that under the rug. I like that, man. So, as long as you're respectful with it, we're respectful with it here too. So appreciate you being here, Angel. It really is not that deep. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that you are hanging around. So appreciate you. It's all love from me. Jay Lynn, last one for me, I think. Tank Dell or Strange in tight end plus. Ooh, 2-point tight end premium? Yeah, we're going Strange on this one. Tank Dell, he's going to hit the bench for me. It's going to be Brenton Strange in the tight end premium. What do we got, Nate? Nate says defensive special teams, Indy, Atlanta, Buffalo, Arizona, Houston. So for me, the highest one in this one is Buffalo. Buffalo is my 3rd-ranked defense on the week. Their top 3 play. We're playing Buffalo there. Jalen says still the same thoughts. Let's go. Hell yeah, man. There you go. All right, so I think we're finally all the way caught up on the questions. If you guys still have some, happy to answer them. If we don't have many more questions, that's all right as well. We can do whatever you got. We got 30 minutes in here already. Talked about some good matchups, talked about some waiver wires, answered some questions. Happy to be with you as long as you guys want me here. But if you guys don't have anything else, let me know. But let's throw some questions in the chat. If it's a little bit slow for the next 5-10 minutes, we'll probably wrap this one up. But just wanted to be here available for you guys. I said I would, even though I'm on vacation, even though I'm on the West Coast now, with a janky setup, a little, Yeti mic and a laptop in front of me. Hey, it's not the same setup at home, but we're still going to get it done, man. Hopefully it's still hitting the same. Anthony says Mooney over Pacheco in half-point flex. I just don't love the matchup for Pacheco this week. It's not a good one. Last week, Kareem Hunt was more involved. It was a 50-50 split. I think they both had 13 carries. It's tough for me to trust Pacheco, but Pacheco, you have to think that he's going to be due for a touchdown here soon. Mooney, I think he's going to continue to get targets. This is a team that's probably still going to be playing in games fairly competitively, even though this is a game against the New York Giants. Maybe they beat up on him a little bit. I think I'm going to lean Mooney. He feels like he has a safer floor, and he feels like he has a similar ceiling as Pacheco. So I'm just going to go with Mooney here, even though it's a half point. Anthony says Njoku or Strange at tight end. If Njoku plays, I still lean Njoku over Strange. But Strange is a really solid option that you can stream this week. And I think he's somebody that you can put in confidently. And in fact, if you can play Njoku and maybe even flex Strange, especially in tight end premiums. I think that I'm okay with that strategy. Single QB league, Love or Darnold, 6-point passing touchdown. Now we're getting to the good juicy questions. I think right now I have where do I have? I have Jordan Love and Sam Darnold both as top 7 plays at the position. I have Sam Darnold as a top 5 play this week. I would be playing Sam Darnold. Johnny's going to call me a homer. He called me a homer the last time I was talking about Sam Darnold. But hey, Sam's been balling, man. What can you say? I'm going Darnold over Jordan Love this week. Gage says Njoku or Mark Andrews. I'm going to play Mark Andrews over Njoku. I definitely trust Lamar Jackson more than I trust Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Even though it's a good matchup for Njoku, again, he's banged up. We don't even know if he's playing yet. It's Mark Andrews for me on this one. Nate says 2 flex half PPR, Spears, Najee, Tank, Ford. For 2 flexes, I'm going to go with Najee and Ford. Those are going to be my 2 plays there. Johnny says full PPR, Gus Bus, Ray, Kendrick Bourne, or Tim Patrick. This is grosser than gross. I'm between Ray and Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick, I feel like he's just, for some reason, found the end zone multiple times now, and I feel like he's going to continue to find the end zone. Ray's the PPR guy. Full PPR, I'm probably going to trust Ray over Tim Patrick. Give me Ray McLeod. He's going to be the play for me there. Angel says, my opponent has Alvin Kamara. Should I box him out and prioritize Kendre or go for Jerome Ford? That's a good question. And to be honest, because both of those guys are on the waiver wire, either way, you're going to give your opponent one of them. I would be going for Jerome Ford. He's guaranteed the starting job right now. Kendre maybe is the starter, not guaranteed. I like the idea of potentially playing defense, but I just go for the better player. Jerome Ford is the higher player on my priority, so I would be going Jerome Ford over Kendre. I like the idea, though. Jalen says, first one, that's different. I'll go with Darnold purely so I don't have to wait till Monday. Hey, maybe you want to wait till Monday. Maybe it's a sweat on Monday. I know some people get addicted to that Monday night football sweat. For me, I personally like the games to be over by 1 o'clock on Sunday. You know, once that first slate goes by, I like to be up by so much that the game's over. I just like the ease of mind there. So, yeah, who knows? Anthony, thoughts on Tua versus the 49ers? Don't love it this week. I'm probably not really trying to play Tua this week. I'd be trying to play some other options. We talked about Cooper Rush as a potential other option. Tua right now in my rankings is my QB. Where do I have him? Got him as QB 14. It's kind of in the same range as like Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Rush. Those guys are all kind of right around each other. That's where I have Tua this week. Nate says, forgot Ramondre as a possible flex too. Would you start him over either of Najee/Ford that you chose? Yeah, I think I like Ramondre more than both. I think I would go Najee, Ramondre, and Ford I would probably leave on the bench. And that's maybe just because of the efficiencies or the lack of efficiency that I think is going to happen with that Cleveland Browns offense with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So, yeah, I would go Ramondre over Ford, and that would leave me with Najee and Ramondre. Anthony says Ford over Rico. I'm going Rico over Ford. Jalen says, I hate it. I want to win by 9 p.m. on Sunday. Fair enough, man. That's how I am. I'd rather be winning so much early that it doesn't matter. You know, I don't got to even sweat the Monday game. I can just watch as a fan. I don't even got to watch as my fantasy football team. I don't got to even let that enter my brain. I just want to watch as a fan. So I'm the same way. We are all caught up again. Love the questions that we're getting tonight. If you still have more, keep throwing them in the chat. Like I said, I do want to let you folks know I don't have a graphic today because, like I said, I'm not in my home setup. But if you do want to support the show, if you guys have been watching this year and you like the content and you want to potentially support the show, you've never played on Underdog, go sign up on Underdog. Underdog is a friend of our show. We got a promo code League FFB. League FFB, when you sign up, if you put that code in, it will give you up to $1,000 in bonus cash to play with on Underdog. And they'll also give you a free pick'em entry. It's usually like Joe Burrow for a half a yard, Kirk Cousins for a half a yard. It's usually related to the Sunday night football game, the Monday night football game, whatever day you sign up. It's going to be closely related to that day's game. Go sign up. They'll give you that. They'll give you some free cash, and hopefully you win as well. And that's how you can support the show. So if you like the content this year, you've been hitting the like button, you've been subscribing, you feel like I'm helping you guys win, some fantasy football games this year just by giving you some good data, some good advice to mull over. Hopefully you feel that way. Just support the show over League FFB on Underdog Fantasy. What are we at? Anthony says, any chance I'm playing Drizzy Drake May over Darnold? Not a damn chance. Not for me. Jalen says, we're not playing Ridley, Moore, Reed over Nico, London, Neighbors, Wilson, right? No, we're not. I'm playing Nico, London, Neighbors, Wilson over all of those guys. So that's definitely what I'm doing. All right. Trying to think what else I have for you guys other than just more questions. I think that might be it. Angel, I appreciate you, Angel. You really didn't have to do that. I appreciate you so much. Super chat from Angel says, appreciate the work, boss, man. Means a lot to me. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for supporting the channel. You literally made my night. Thank you. Jalen says, we are absolutely locked in for these semis, Andrew. Love to hear it. Did you say Andrews over Jonnu? I did not say that. Technically, I said Andrews over, who did I say? Andrews over Njoku, I think is what I said this week. In my rankings this week, I have Jonnu Smith as a top 4 tight end. So no, I would not be playing Andrews over him. But I'm also assuming that Jalen Waddle misses the game this week. If Jalen Waddle misses, Jonnu's a smash play. He'd be right behind Trey McBride and Brock Bowers to me. Jalen says, made NFC championship in the 32-team league I've talked to you about. Damn, that's crazy, man. Again, every time somebody says 32 leagues, you've said 32 leagues or 32 team. That's crazy, man. I have never played in a league that big. I assume it's chaos, and I assume that making the NFC championship is a damn good thing to feel accomplished about. So good shit there, Jalen. Johnny says, cool, thanks, bro. Appreciate you guys. But I think we might be out of questions, folks. So I am gonna say last call here. We're gonna wrap it up. If you guys haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, do all of that stuff for YouTube. Like I said, still lots of content coming out, even though I'm out of town. We're gonna still be doing the Week 16 breakdowns. We're gonna be doing the Friday night Q&A. We're gonna be doing the Sunday start sit before the games. And all of that stuff, man. We're doing it all. So we're going to be here. I'm going to be out of town for the next 10 days, 11 days. And so the next 4 or 5 videos are going to be this setup. Hopefully you guys feel like this is going to be home to you, because this is home to me for the next 11 days or 10 days, whatever it is. So hopefully you guys like it. Everybody else in the chat, appreciate you guys. Anthony says thank you. But that's it, folks. I have nothing else for you. So I will see you on our next episode. But until then, peace out.